I'm Kevin Walder, your host for the Oracle Scroll. And today I'm welcoming you back to episode 5 of a series I'm calling Can We Talk? I kind of like that title. Can We Talk? Well, we're following the first few episodes that I've put up, and I've talked about the consternation I found myself in, and I make very clear that this is my personal journey. And I'm sharing it because it had such an impact on me that it could very well be something that others will find helpful as well. So what I'm trying to get across to us is how we have to leave behind some of the story we've been told and all the chapters that we've added to that story as well. We have to unlearn. When I first started my waking up experience, I read a book on a spiritual nature. I can't tell you the title of the book or the author or anything else about it because there was only one sentence that stood out to me and hit me across the head and made me have to stop and think. And that sentence read, "You can never advance spiritually until you lose your mind." That to me was the most nonsensical thing I could have ever heard at that moment in time. It just made no sense at all. How is losing your mind attractive or in any way helpful? And then after I began to understand the full meaning behind it, that's exactly the message that was coming through. Unlearn. Unlearn the things you've been told. The things you've been told by your parents, your teachers, the authority figures in your life. All the things that you've been told you could rely on that just simply have no basis in fact. And when you think about it, that's a tremendous volume of instructions that you can toss out. I don't know if you remember, but years ago, there used to be these huge, thick books that Chilton's put out. Chilton's, they were the guide to repairing any automobile that had ever been made. They were confusing and they were thick and full of information, some of it conflicting, but it didn't matter because by the time you got to it, you were already in too deep to get out. So that's the kind of volume you're going to heave over the edge and walk away from, because much of what you've been told and much of what you've been instructed to believe, and quite a lot of what you've gathered up yourself to believe, is just simply fiction. And that is a very difficult thing to realize. Unlearning can be a much bigger job than learning. And learning is a chore for a lot of us. I know it never came that particularly easy to me. But if you think about what it is that attracts people to fundamentalism, attracts people to a cult, what is it that makes people think that this is the best way for them to live? It's simple. It's easy. There's no reason to think. There's no reason to reason. There's no reason to exert your mental prowess on anything at all. No matter how small the decision, there's a decision that's already been made. Someone else has already written down what it is that you need to do in every situation in your life. They've also written down the appropriate punishments for your failure to adhere to exactly what they're telling you. But hey, it's simple. It's easy. You don't have to think. You only have to accept whatever it is they tell you, whatever it is they feed you. We make decisions all day long, every day. Some of us are better at it than others, I'll admit, but we make decisions. I mean, even if it's what to wear, what to have for dinner, what we're going to plan for the weekend or a vacation, those are all decisions that we have to make. And we've allowed ourselves that, we've given ourselves that opportunity. But when it comes to the big things in life, we're very frightened of making decisions. We tend to ask for help. We tend to enlist the assistance of everyone that we can trust, I suppose, everyone that has some experience in that regard. We try to find other people to, and let's face it, that's what it really is. We find other people to take responsibility for the decision we're being forced to make because we just don't trust ourselves to make it, or we just don't feel worthy of that tremendous responsibility, or we are just simply unwilling to take the risk. Life is a risk. From that very moment that the cold air of a delivery room hits your bare bottom and you are forced to open your eyes and to breathe in this strange stuff that's called air that you've never seen, heard, or felt before, from that very moment, we are instructed in how to be dependent. And for some of us, that's a very comfortable place to live. I think about I've had some friends who were made the military a career. When they finally did leave the military, they had to leave at that point because they were old enough they aged out. When they had to leave the military, they were lost. They had nothing to do. If you think about it, the military is a fairly structured existence. You have definite parameters. When to get up, when to go to bed, when to eat, when to, whatever it is your responsibilities entailed. And that is exactly the same mindset that attracts people to a religion, a fundamentalist kind of way of thinking, or even just, the run-a-day cult. We find ourselves looking for the easy way out. And that's not life. That is not life at all. And once we break free, perhaps in my case, it was a so-called Christian cult. But once we break free of that teaching, we go in search of other teachings that are just as fictional. They don't really have a basis in any fact at all. There's no historical proof of most of what we're finding that we might be tempted to follow. We can pick ideas. We can make use of teachers and some of the ideas that they espouse. But when we decide we must follow, when we decide we've picked a guru, then we have given away so much of our power, and we are expressing our unwillingness to use that power for our best effort and our best outcome. That's where I think we need to talk. We need to find a way to be a community, to be a society that even though we may differ greatly, we may have different approaches to every single circumstance, every single challenge that comes up, we may have a different solution or a different approach. That's okay. If we're all doing it the same way, how boring is that? That's like going to an art museum and there's, one painting. It's been repeated 1,200 times so that there's something on every wall, but that's what you have, is one version. That is not life. That is not where we are supposed to be as human beings. And yes, we can be very spiritual, but we have to bring the human with us. We have to bring that side of ourselves. We have to bring that into the mix because it's us. It's part of us. We can't ignore that part exists. That's like saying that, hey, my right arm isn't really here. That doesn't make any sense. So that's where I'm coming from when I say, can we talk? I have looked at this from several different angles, and I, I see people around me who bounce from one teacher, one guru to another, looking for someone to give them the answer. The answers are in you. They're in me. They're in each of us. They're in our head, our heart, and our gut. And I keep talking about those three centers of thinking in our every one of us. We all have that. We can all bring that to bear. So, how are we going to get in touch with that part of ourselves? That part of ourselves that guides and helps us make better decisions going forward. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Please visit my website at kevinwalder.com, where you can purchase any of the services that I offer. Also, check out my books, Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards, and 22 Teachers, Healing Lessons from the Major Arcana. Both are available now at amazon.com. And most importantly, never miss another episode. Click below, click the subscribe button and the bell to make sure you're always up to date.